take the lead today. So
You want me to, do I have share screen?
yeah, let me give you share screen. Go ahead, sir.
Go. All right, so welcome to our Friday education. Can you guys see that fine? I'm not sure what you guys got. Can you see the whole screen there?
I got my glasses on. We're good.
I don't know if I need to zoom
Why are you
out
making
here.
it smaller?
I wasn't sure how it views on your side, so I apologize. There we go. Okay, so so our topic for Friday here is honesty, no matter the consequences. Something that we definitely believe in, want to be focusing on here at Integrity Capital. So first, I kind of want to just start on what is honesty. I think there's two types of honesty. There's things that you can call facts that are, you can qualify it, something that's, when we work with a client, that says, what's my fee for this? And we can tell them for a fact, oh, your fee will be X%. And then there's opinions, and that one becomes kind of a gray area. But it's, the questions of what's my likelihood of getting this done, and that's something where you can't, there's no way to measure that. And that's, there's facts which are measurable, and there's opinions which, it's from experience, I think, but there's, you can have an honest opinion on something. And, those are the ones where, facts are, you measure it, and the opinions are the ones that sometimes it's, you're I guess the one that gets used a lot as an example is when your spouse says, does this dress make me look fat? And those are the ones where sometimes, that's an
Good
opinion.
analogy, Tom.
That's an opinion. You should not get a ruler and try and turn that into a fact or a tape measure.
It could be though, the man saying, honey, is my belly getting bigger?
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true, Lana. That's very true.
Am I getting, do I have more to love?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I still attractive?
Yes. And those, there's definitely a hard difference between facts and opinions. But facts are something we can measure. It's something that we know is finite, and those are the ones that it's very easy to say, are you being honest or not? That's it's there, it's measurable. And those are most of the things we deal with on a day-to-day, in our line of business are facts. And that's, if you're not being honest with a fact, if you're not, if you're not flat out saying, this is X and X is going to happen, you're not being honest. If you're giving an opinion, sometimes there's a gray area, and that's where you need to be kind of clear. If somebody says, will this happen? Well, there's a good likelihood. There's, give your best. I think it's a 80% chance we can get that deal done. It's an 80% chance that the value will come in where we think it should be. Those are the ones that are kind of a gray area. And then I think that kind of goes into the next section here on what does honesty look like, is kind of with the candid but gracious. And that's where the opinions kind of, play into it. When you're giving an honest opinion on something, one of our other core principles is candid but gracious. You need to make sure that you're giving those opinions graciously, and also giving the facts graciously. If you've got a client that's coming to you saying, well, I've been told that I can buy this property at 100% financed. You know, that one's probably a fact. You know, there's there might be a couple ways to get something like that done, but most likely it's not. And I think candid but gracious is where honesty and you know, honesty kind of play together, where you can be honest, but that doesn't mean you have to be rude. You know, when you're telling somebody, no, you're wrong. You know, sometimes it's the candid but gracious plays into it, where it's, you know, you need to take a step back and say, well, I see where you're coming from, but you know, that's not from our experience what we've seen. Um, or if somebody's, you know, dealing with something where it's, you know, I think that that the rate should be lower. You know, again, it's, well, you know, I you know, understand where you're coming from and would like it to be lower, but that's not, you know, what we've seen. You can't just say, nope, you're wrong. You have to handle those, you know, those sort of situations, kind of gracefully and graciously. Does that kind of make sense where I'm going with that, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. I think that's a real huge thing, and I think it's a big challenge because you're going to face it almost on a daily basis. So that's my question: is how do you have those conversations with people when they're wrong? Like, what do you? I'd like to hear from everybody. Like, what things can you say, or do you say, or how do you handle that when you have to be honest about a situation, but you don't want to be offensive
Mhm.
per se, right? So I'm curious.
I think when running into those situations, I think best approach initially is to take it, go back a step on everything, and go back to facts or opinions, and have the discussion. You know, if somebody says, well, you know, the rate should be lower, or that should be done quicker. It's one of those situations where you kind of have to go back to the facts of, well, why, you know, respect what they're saying, and ask, you know, well, why do you think it should be done quicker, or why do you think the rate should be lower? And hear what they have to say, because, you know, they might come back and have a very valid point, and we could be wrong. Which, you know, the
Yeah.
honestly, that, you know, I've been wrong before. So
No.
it happened once. It was 87, I think.
When you thought it's when you thought you were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the, you know, to I think the first thing is to go back to find out what is being discussed. Is it facts or opinions? And, you know, weed out the facts, and start there is my approach.
It's great. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I usually just kind of absorb what they're saying, and before sometimes I automatically want to just fire back, and I have to really discipline myself not to, and I just kind of like listen, let there be a moment of silence, and just let them, like, you know, let it out. And then from there, I basically just absorb it, acknowledge them, and what, you know, give them credit for what they think, and accept that they have their feelings and their thoughts and their opinions. And then if I do have factual information, I will share in a graceful, respectful way. But if it's something that maybe, like Tom said, they are right about, and maybe I just don't know, I then usually say, well, let me check in on that and see what I can do, and make sure that they have a expectation as for when we'll get back to them. But yeah, that's generally how I would handle it.
Good. It's good, Dan. What about you, Lana?
I agree with, I agree with all of you. I was thinking the same way what Dan was said, you know, just listening, validating, you know, their thoughts and opinions. And then if I don't have a direct answer, you know, I would probably, you know, kind of show them that their concern is my concern as well. And then I would try to see what I can do about a resolution. If I have a fact about it, you know, I think I've ran into this before, and I just, at that point, just listened and, you know, just gave them support and, you know, addressed what issues I could if there's more than one. So, you know, I don't have all the answers, and I don't ever tell a borrower really that they're wrong. But if I have, you know, a fact that I can present, you know, you have to do it graciously. So,
It's good. Good stuff, guys. Okay, Tom.
So, so continuing on what does honesty look like? So, just, you know, because, you know, sometimes, you know, facts are finite, opinions are not. So, you know, obviously candid but gracious in those scenarios where you might have somebody who thinks they have the facts, or they might have the facts and we don't. So approach that, you know, cautiously with grace and graciously, and make sure that we understand where they're coming from. So the next part, you know, and these kind of, in a way, candid but gracious, and I think is honesty kind, you know, kind of go hand in hand a bit there. But I mean, honesty is not kind, I guess, is the best way to say it. You know, it isn't. Sometimes it's not what we want to hear, or be told. And but it's the truth, and it's something that we need to hear. You know, personal story. When my dad passed away, drove up to the house and asked the paramedic, "Is he okay?" And they said, "Nope." And it's like, well, you know, it's not kind to hear that, but what good would that situation be if they were like, "Well, let's talk about it later." You know, let's, you know, define okay. You know, so honesty is not kind, but it's honest. That's that's what it is. And it's, you know, being honest, and having the facts and the correct information is really where we need to be putting our clients, painting a rosy picture for them to say, oh yeah, you know, we'll have this done in 2 weeks at, you know, 2.5% interest rate is not beneficial to them. You know, turning around and, you know, letting them know that, you know, well, you know, you don't have really, you know, with the Johnny Fanucci deal, I think, we had that deal where he came to us pretty late in the process, and we kind of had to lay it out for him that, you know, if we're going to get this done, it needs to be all hands on deck, and there's a chance that we cannot close this on time. You know, we need to give him that information going into it on a purchase with a short timetable, because we're not benefiting him by saying, you know, there's no risk involved in this, and you know, getting to the end and being, hey, surprise, there was risk involved. You know, we need to let clients plan accordingly. And then next on what does honesty look like, you know, omissions of truth. Omissions of truth, I mean, you're not lying if you don't tell the facts. If you don't say, you know, if you hit somebody's car and you don't tell them, you're not saying that you didn't hit their car, but that's not honesty. You know, that's not, you know, that's not an honest situation. You know, if a client brings you something and says, you know, well, this is um, the deal I'd like to get done in this time frame, and we don't tell them, oh well, you know, that's not going to happen in this time frame, and we just start proceeding, that's not being honest. Just by not telling them, that's not, we're not being honest in that situation. So honesty is not something that you don't have to be prompted to be honest. You should be out the gate, forthright, honest, and laying down, the facts. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yes, and I'd like to add too, being honest, upfront, you're actually preparing them, because if you aren't honest, all it's gonna do is cause frustration, anger, panic on the client's part,
Yep.
so it kind of protects both sides, when you're honest upfront.
That's a really good point, Lana, and that's actually
Mhm.
proactive. So honesty is proactive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the moment we see something that doesn't quite add up or doesn't fit into the grand picture of where the deal needs to be going, that's when we need to be, called to action, not later in the process when it's like, oh, I thought this was going to go this way, but nobody asked. That's not being honest or proactive.
Yep, spot on.
Okay, so why should we be honest? You seems self-explanatory, but it's the right thing to do. But it's going to have, there's an immediate impact to others, especially where we are in our business. It could have great impact. People could lose money, to them personally, that people could lose money. Somebody could make if somebody spends a lot of time in a process with us and we don't disclose all the terms, and they get to the end and they're like, well, tell me more about this prepayment penalty that was never discussed. That's a lot of time they've wasted, if that deal is not going to work for them. It may also put them into a spot, if you've got a situation where you're working with partners, that could impact their relationships with those partners. Because, same scenario, what if it gets to the end and it's not them, but it's their partner saying, hey, tell us about this prepayment penalty on the documents that nobody discussed, and it falls back on them. That could impact their relationships, their business dealings, with those partners. There's just so many ways that honesty, not being honest, can put somebody into a bad spot. That it's just not, even for the minor details. That's why we need to always make sure that we're disclosing everything. We're being as honest and proactive. And, I think, again, proactive and honesty kind of go hand in hand. We need to make sure that we're, as soon as we see something that's not going out right, and if we're not acting on it, it's essentially an omission of truth, in a way. And we need to jump on things to make sure those people aren't impacted. I don't know if you guys want to add to that, and ways that others are impacted by us not being honest.
Yeah, one thing is like a big thing I always like to share is our fee. So being honest about how our fee and what that structure looks like and what to expect from the process, and what happens after they sign that our agreement too. So just so that everyone's always on the same page and everything is laid out on the table. Honesty in the beginning is, like Lana said, sets the tone for the future of the relationship too.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes when the way we are, as we are overly honest, it might even draw someone to share something that they may have been kind of nervous to share, from like that could impact the deal or something like that. So it kind of helps us also figure out if it's going to make sense to work with this person or not too, based on, like, I found out someone had a lawsuit on them, after being so honest with them, they decided actually you should probably know this, so it was it was good to know, because then we realized that, hey, because it looked good, the deal looked really good,
Mhm.
but then that happened, so it automatically kind of shut everything down, where honestly I wish I learned about that earlier, but it's just in the spirit of honesty. I think he felt like guilt in it, and he called me and told me, so it was kind of interesting how that
Oh,
kind
wow,
of
yeah.
unfolded. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think just,
guess. Mhm.
go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead. You.
Just try, we're in the relationship business, and, foundationally, you can't develop a healthy relationship without trust, and trust comes from honesty, right? So it's just,
Mhm.
you know, if you want to have good long-term relationships with people, then it's built on the foundation of trust, and that comes through honesty, and that's how good relationships flourish, based upon those things. I mean, you kind of look at one of our clients, Tom, we do a lot of stuff with. I think it's safe to assume that we're doing a lot of deals with him now. It's based on trust, and he's the kind of person that he's honest. I mean, we just, and we're honest with him. So it's a very comforting relationship. Therefore, kind of the same thing, which is this idea of peace of mind. If you haven't, if you're in a relationship where somebody's honest, it gives you a lot of peace of mind, because you're just like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry. Like, I wonder if they're gonna like screw me or tell me the truth, or you know what I mean. So
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that kind of moves on to the the immediate impact to ourselves. That's if we're not honest, and I think that Dan, you were kind of touching on this with in the reverse of your client, what was the immediate impact that your client felt from not being honest? And that was probably guilt. That's
Yeah.
probably why he called you back.
Exactly.
And and it's yeah, that feeling of if you're kind of what Dave was saying, that like, oh, is the client, or the client might feel like, oh, are they gonna screw me or whatnot? But I think it kind of dishonesty breeds dishonesty in a way. And if you're honest with somebody, you got to be careful, don't get taken advantage of. But if you're honest with somebody, you get the general sense that they're being honest with you too. And I think it kind of, when you kind of open those doors, and you show somebody, hey, I'm being honest with you, it kind of opens their doors to say, oh, I'm going to be honest with them. But I think, yeah, if we're not honest, the immediate impact, I think, is guilt, which definitely is not something anybody wants to carry around. But in the long run, it's something that it's just going to kill deals, really, is what it comes down to. If you're telling your client you can get XYZ, and when it comes down to it, that's not achievable. You just wasted everybody's time, including yourself, your own time, and nobody's got what they wanted. You've lost possibly a decent client and relationship, and you're carrying around the guilt of that too. So it just breeds more and more, on itself. So definitely, to avoid that, just be honest. um, but what do we gain from being honest? And I kind of touched on that, a bit there. But more open relationships with clients, definitely. We gain reputation, I think, with our clients, and referrals. If nobody's gonna say this broker, he screwed me the best, you'd be impressed. You should call him. If you really want to be bamboozled, call Integrity Capital. So, we gain obviously reputation with more clients, or the same clients coming back to us saying, wow, that was a neat experience. They laid it out up front. They told me, hey, this is how it's going to happen, and that's how it happened. There's a lot to be said for that, to be able to tell our clients up front, this is what you're in for, and have them finish the process and say, wow, it's exactly what the roadmap
Yeah.
said. But yeah, definitely, reputation and clients. And honestly, it's just through business and probably, and in life, it's the path of least resistance, for just being honest. Again, it kind of goes back up. It's not going to be always the most kind, and you got to be gracious when you're doing it.
Yep.
But if you're honest, if going back to the spouse example, if your spouse says, well, honey, did you like dinner? I cooked it just for you. You say, oh yeah, I really loved it, when they didn't. It's you're
Yeah.
you're gonna go through life eating that same dinner every night.
That's why
Where
honesty can't be kind.
exactly,
Like, honey, let me take you to dinner tonight. You don't need to cook. Hey,
you
that's
know,
a good
we should
idea.
we should all make dinner for our spouses and see what they think.
Actually, I'm very fortunate because Bill makes me dinner almost every night.
Oh,
wow.
nice.
Yeah.
Wow. I think
So
maybe you're marrying the right guy then, the right
yeah,
man.
yeah. I don't know. I've just been cooking for just years and years and years, and I'm just like, I don't. And my kids are gone. I'm like, I don't want to cook. I don't want to cook anymore. Done.
Well, it looks like you're gonna get a break here pretty soon.
There you go.
I'm getting one for sure. So, but something I'd like to add as far as
Sure.
the effects go, the old saying, what comes around goes around, so
Mhm.
if you're not being honest, it's just, I don't think, what you receive back is, gonna be fruitful. And, also, with the Christ-like model, God blesses those who are, true and honest. And so I think that's important as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big deal that that it's obviously part of our culture. It's a reality you can't escape. No matter what you believe, you're stuck with a world that has been designed with a cause and effect that just so it's kind of like the whole concept of whether you believe in God or not, everybody's going to suffer, right? Like, so doesn't matter.
Mhm.
There's just the reality, and this is a reality that God set up, that there's consequence, and if you're honest, doesn't mean it's always going to go right for you or end well, but you can have your conscience clear, and you realize that if we're really trying to do what's in the best interest of the client, that we can't do that unless we're honest. So, and here's the other thing to think about too as we wrap it up. If you noticed how these all are kind of intertwined, if you kind of went down our core convictions, the Christ model, this is caring about other people. Well, how do you do that? It's, I got to be honest. How do we do that? Applying candid but gracious, that's a part of it. All these things are sort of integrated together. How do we do that? Through systems, being helpful, and then, ultimately excelling by finishing. That's part of honesty too. So you got to complete what you say. So yeah, it's good. It's a good discussion. One that might seem like, why are we having this talk? But it's because we take it very serious here, and it's part of our culture. So there you go. So good job, Tom.
Thank you.
Good job, Tom.
I was next to you, Tom. I'd pat you on the head.
I appreciate that.